Om Sri Sai Ram, Om Sri Sai Nathaya Namaha, Om Sri Sai Parabrahmane Namaha. Today, in the series of our Saisatcharita satsangs, we are talking about chapter 23. In this chapter, Hemad Pant mainly deals with the greatness of Baba and his humble attitude towards God. And Baba used to say that he was a slave of God, and he never compared himself to others or allowed anybody to compare him to other people. He did not despise anyone or considered anyone as insignificant. Of course, when we had good deeds in our previous lives, then only we'll develop an interest and love for listening to the stories of the saints. And this will give us ultimate happiness and contentment. In the chapter 23, Baba also teaches an important lesson through a sadhaka, that means a person who is practicing this spiritual life. And he was well versed in Patanjali Yoga Sutras and other scriptures also. And one time, he came with Nana Chandorkar and he saw Baba. And he thought that he can reach to the new levels in meditation, which is called Samadhi Sthiti, even though he practiced all kinds of methods, but it was tough for him to reach to that level of perfection. And he was very disappointed. It was not easy to go through this kind of despair. He was hoping that Baba can show him the way. And when he comes to Dwarka Mai, Baba was about to eat some dry roti, like bread, with onion. They call it as bakri. So bakri is like a bread which happened to be a dry one. Immediately this person thinks that how can this Baba can teach me anything if he's eating dry bread with an onion? When such a notion arose in his mind, Sai picked on that, and immediately Sai said this, Nana, only those who can digest onion should eat it. One who has the capacity to digest it, he can eat onion safely. So this kind of triggered this yogi and he understood what Baba is, how he was able to pick up what he was thinking inside. And that made him surrender to Baba with full faith. Then he came near Baba and asked relevant questions, and all his doubts were cleared. And he was able to go back and then practice his meditation and was able to reach to the new levels in meditation. So this was the story in the Saisatcharita. So what we can learn from this is, it's not just reading about it, it's understanding the practicality of whatever we read. If we cannot apply that in our daily life, what good is that? So this is what Baba taught him, and he surrendered. This person also surrendered to Baba, which helped him to grow, not only as a person, but as a spiritual being. Whenever we take a task, we first need to understand what we are about to do. Then we need to understand the consequences of those acts. Without proper understanding, we'll be clueless, and sometimes we might feel we know everything, and this can be tricky. If we're not influenced by our emotions, we can handle any tough situation. Even in the spiritual world, one needs to have a good foundation and a solid foundation of fundamental principles. And these principles have to be by practice, not just by theory. This is what Baba was saying about eating the onion. Can we absorb the passions that is called Rajoguna that can arise by eating that? If we can handle these passions that can be coming out of these Rajo type of foods, then we can eat anything. It's not an obstruction to the spiritual path. So that's what Baba was trying to say when he says whoever can digest the onion, that person should eat that onion. So next, Hemadpan talks about how Syama was saved from a snake bite. And we all know the story from the Saisatcharita that once Syama was bitten by a snake and the poison was spreading all over the body and he's about to die. And we learned from the Saisatcharita that also in Shirdi village, when somebody was bitten by the snake, about to die, they usually take him to a temple in the village, and that was the usual custom. But Syama told the villagers that no matter what happens to him, he has to go to Baba only. By the time they reached the Dwarkamai, poison was already spreading all over, and he was almost about to die, and his condition was very grave. And we all know that, of course, Baba saved him. And this Syama's faith is a perfect example of pure devotion and faith. And we have to learn and adopt this kind of faith in what we believe in, and we have to develop this kind of faith in our Guru, Sai, and there is no other way. And the faith is the essential part of this devotion. And then another time, there was a cholera epidemic in Shirdi, and people were dying. And the village heads decided that no fuel carts should be allowed into the village. They also kind of established a rule that no goat should be killed there. If anyone disobeyed these ordinances, they will be punished. Baba knew that these ordinances, the rules that are superstitious and meaningless. But at that time, it was difficult to understand. When you are worried about a disease spreading, and at that time they didn't know how it spreads. But now, of course we know how cholera spreads and all that. But at that time it was a big deal. So, but anyhow, there was a fuel cart that came to Shirdi, and people didn't want that to come into the village because of the rule. But Baba somehow knew about it, and then he goes there, and then he asks the guy with a fuel cart to come into the village, to come to the Dwarkamai, so that he can get those the logs that can burn, and he can use them in the duni. So, because Baba kept his duni burning all the time, we all know that, And people, of course, when he had those logs there, people were free to take them, that wood sticks, whatever they are. And Baba never used to say a word. And he kind of showed the villagers that these ordinances were superstitious and they were wrong. And they also talked about not slaying a goat. So he wanted to prove that wrong also. But he knew that somebody's going to bring a goat, and also through this story that we're going to talk about, he showed how Dixit was with extreme devotion and faith towards Baba. Once there was a cholera epidemic in Shirdi area, and someone brought a sick goat to Baba, which was about to die. And then at that time, Bade Baba was nearby, and Baba tells him to offer it as a sacrifice, kill it with one stroke. And then Bade Baba was the first one to be asked, right, to kill this goat. The excuse that came from his mouth was, why should it be unnecessarily killed? Then Baba asks Syama, and he says, Syama, you at least bring a knife. Who will cut the goat? Go, now, get it. Then Madhavrao Syama was a faithful devotee, we know that, and he goes to Radhakrishna Mai and brings a big knife and placed it before Baba. And Syama was troubled big time to bring the big knife. In the meanwhile, Radhakrishna Mai comes there because he got that knife from Radhakrishna Mai, and then she understands that Baba wanted to kill that goat, and then she comes and then grabs the knife and then leaves. So Syama left to get another knife, and he remains in the Vada, delaying his return, so that killing would not have been done with his hands. Then Kaka's turn comes, Kaka Dixit. Baba orders him, go, you bring a big knife to cut. Let the goat be freed from its misery. Then Kaka Dixit goes to Satevada and brings a knife. He got himself ready to kill the goat without any hesitation. He was determined to obey Guru's order. But his heart was palpitating and his body was soaked in perspiration. Then, tucking his dhoti with one hand and holding up the knife in the other, and he folds the sleeve up, the hand that was holding the knife, and he comes forward and tightens his grip on the big knife, raised his hand and says, Baba, shall I kill it? Just tell me once. Truly speaking, a weapon is held only to protect the weak, right? And it was now raised above an innocent goat. But he had dedicated his life to serve the Baba. Therefore, he had no hesitation at all. He wanted to kill it quickly. But pity arose in his heart, and the big knife kind of wavered. The hand was shaken. And then immediately Baba says, come on, kill now. What are you waiting for? So then, then Kaka Dixit gets ready and makes a semicircular turn and about to hit the goat. Seeing this, immediately Sai says, oh, let it be. Oh, Kaka, stop this. How cruel you are. Though you are a Brahmin, you are ready to kill. Have you no thought about this? And once he hears these words, Kaka Dixit throws the knife and he was relieved. But he had no hesitation in bringing that knife, because when Guru tells you to do something, and once you have trust in him, there you go. I mean, you need to obey his order, because gurus never will lead you in wrong direction. And of course, the goat's life was saved, spared. Devotion to the Guru had scaled the peak. Then Kaka asks Baba, Baba, your nectar-like words are the only dharma and loss in our life. We have no other dharma, we have no shame, obeying your order. So it is our tradition that we need to follow the scriptures which say that the Guru's word is the ultimate. To completely obey the Guru's order, that is the meaning of the discipleship for a disciple. This is our jewel. Disobedience is the greatest sin. We never consider the consequences of these actions, whether they give pleasure or pain. Whatever is our fate will happen. Our salvation is at the Sadguru's feet. So it is our duty to obey. Then Baba wanted to take care of the business himself, to give this goat Sadgati. Then Bade Baba wanted to avoid this, if we look at it, and he wanted to take this to Takia. When they were taking that goat, as soon as they leave the Dwarkama, it died. Everyone knew that goat's death is imminent, but at that opportune time, Baba enacted all this drama to prove that every one of them is at a different stage of their spiritual life. And when we saw this whole incident, Kaka Dixit was at a higher level in obeying Baba's order. So this is what we can learn from this. And this was a difficult test, and Kaka was like a pure gold. Though Baba knew this fully, unless he tested him in public, it would not have been believed that he was such a good disciple of Baba, or a devotee of Baba. Baba promised him that he will take him in Vimana, that is providing him Sadgati. This is the kind of devotee who is eligible for Brahmagnana, or self-realization. If one had doubts about the words of saint, his efforts for achievement are going to be definitely unsuccessful. Here, we have to see that his words become then meaningless, futile, and fruitless chatter. If we continue this, there will be no spiritual growth. One who respects the words of Guru will achieve new heights in spiritual life. But if they try to find a fault with the Guru, thinks them they're not doing the right way, then we don't have to talk about it. They're going in opposite direction. Whenever Guru's orders were given, it is better to obey them and not think whether they're correct or incorrect. But this has to happen after completely trusting that he is your Guru, he or she is your Guru, and they're doing it in your best interest. Gurus, real Sadgurus, will always do good to you. They will never direct you in a wrong direction. Mind really should be inclined to obey the Guru's order, and then they should be engrossed in remembering the Guru's name, The eyes should be fixed at the feet of the Sai. The attitude should be of meditation on the whole Sai. So this is how a sadhaka need to be. Even if a moment is lost between receiving the orders and executing them, that time also cannot be tolerated. This is a strange level of awareness. And Dixit was a man of pure heart. He was truthful, courageous, and unshakable as a rock in his determination. And he did not even think twice when he tried to obey Baba's order. He did not even think about its being a sin. The mind should be always at the Guru's feet, whether you live or die. We obey the order of the Guru. He alone knows the consequence or the end result. At the end of the chapter, Hemad Pant talks about the best disciples who will guess what Guru needs and does it even before the Guru asks them. The average disciple will do things when Guru asks them to do so, whereas the ordinary disciples will postpone the service to Guru or make mistakes even if they do it. So this is how Hemad Pant categorizes the disciples, how they are depending on their passion to serve Guru. The devotees always should have firm faith in their Guru, and this has to be backed up by intelligence and patience. So these are the beautiful narrations and beautiful teachings that were given to us in the chapter 23 in Saisatcharita. So with this we will conclude this chapter, and we will continue the next chapters at another time. Om Sri Sai Nadharpanamastu Subham Bhavatu. Om Sri Sai Ram. Om Sri Sai Nadhaya Namaha. Om Sri Sai Parabrahmane Namaha. Om Sri Sachidananda Sadguru Sainath Maharaj Ki Jai.